Everybody, welcome back to the Spurs 9501 podcast. I've got Stephen from the Vermont Spurs Supporters Club with me today to discuss our sad defeat with Chelsea. Hello, Stephen. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing all right, thanks. How are you?
I'm not too bad, thanks. Good to see you and to share your analysis of the match. So, give us your thoughts about the match and why we lost 1-0. What do you think were the main reasons?
Well, I mean, the number one reason was that bullish challenge by Dier in the box. That he had absolutely no business making that tackle. My jaw was on the floor. I was so shocked to see at that level such a clumsy, reckless challenge in the box. I, I mean, this is one of those things where Chelsea, they started the game really well. They were attacking, they were pressing, they were all over the place. It seemed like Spurs were struggling to come up with answers, but as the game was progressing, they were growing more and more into it until that challenge. Once they gave away the penalty and once it was converted, it looked like at least half of the team, half the players out on the field just were deflated. They lost all kind of hope, it seemed, and they started playing like it. They were slow and lazy, and it's like they were already in their heads that the game's been lost. There's no coming back from it, and it took probably well into the second half before we started to see them recover a bit. And by then, you're giving yourself minutes to get back into a game when you had the better part of an hour to do so. It just was unfortunate, but I don't see necessarily the same doom and gloom that I've been reading about, online on Reddit or in comments for other videos. It wasn't nearly as bad as Brighton, which, grain of salt, that was a terrible performance. But there were signs that this could still work without Kane and, with some limited options out there. It's just unfortunate that, we got put in such a terrible situation.
Yeah, I mean, without Harry Kane as a focal point, we just look devoid of ideas. I mean, I'm looking at it a lot more pessimistically than you, Stephen. I think there was no plan to the play. There was no, what we're going to do. There was no pattern of play. It just seemed like players didn't know what to do. Vinicius was lost up front on his own. I mean, surely Mourinho should be drilling into them how to play and not just defend. You're the home team. The onus is on you to make the running. I mean, we made Chelsea, although they're a good team, we made them look like we do to all teams. We make them look really good. I think they were there for the taking. They weren't that great.
Yeah, I agree for sure. I think, and this was brought up in one of the post-match videos. I think it was on NBC Sports in the States. They were saying how, because of the poor defense that Spurs have had, that the rest of the team almost has to sit back and kind of help out there. So when you get into that attacking third, your options are limited. And so, yeah, it wasn't a great game, and it was definitely one that should have been won. And I'm looking more at like the individual players and how they're reacting to things. Vinicius for sure was isolated up there, no real options, but he was aggressive. He was giving it, you could tell 100%. He was going into those challenges. He was trying to make something happen, but there was just nothing going on around him. I thought, when we got Bergwijn off there, and we put Lucas and Lamela on from Ndombele, then we started to see a bit more. Those are two players who are very dynamic. They bring a high energy to the game. It doesn't always come off. In this case, we didn't really see a whole lot, from it. But that energy, it helps bring Spurs out of the defensive area and really pressure Chelsea a bit more. Even if it's just, running and forcing them to play those passes, it's more than we were seeing for, an hour in the game before either of them, set foot on it. So,
I mean, how do you think, Eric Dier, if we take the centre-back, Eric Dier, he made a really bad mistake against Liverpool. He's made another mistake today. Why do you think Mourinho keeps playing Eric Dier at centre-back?
I feel Eric Dier is probably the player who is more willing to listen to Jose and really do what he wants. I would be shocked if he wasn't dropped for the weekend fixture. Jose, he's one of those managers, if you do what he wants, he's going to play you. And I think that's the case with Dier. Dier's giving him what he wants. But if you do something that brainless to concede a penalty when it absolutely didn't need to happen, there's going to be repercussions. I would be shocked if Dier was in the starting lineup. I would probably see, maybe Toby and Rodon at the weekend as a partnership. Usually it's one or the other, but in this case, that seems to be more likely. Maybe you get Sanchez in there, but I would not. I would take Dier performing poorly to Sanchez on his average day any day of the week. So I would very much like to see a Toby Rodon combo and see how that works out. But yeah, I would be shocked if Dier keeps his place after that challenge.
Well, it's a well-known fact in the UK that Dier is a favourite of Mourinho because he speaks Portuguese background. Mm-hmm. There's rumours that he's Mourinho's love child as well. I don't know if that's true or not. But basically, Dier is at the stage where it's very, very difficult for Mourinho to ever drop him. He tried to buy him when he was at Manchester United, so he's got a lot of time for him. So, and I think Mourinho had the cheek to even say that it wasn't a penalty. I don't know where he's coming from. It was definitely a penalty, if you ask me.
Oh, for sure.
So Carlos Vinicius got his first Premier League start, nearly 4 or 5 months after joining. Just give us your assessment of his performance.
Yeah, and I hinted to it earlier. He was aggressive up top. He was really trying his hardest. There was one moment early on when they were on the breakaway where I think he probably should have played Son in on the left. Yeah. Go at it himself. But what I saw from him was that was probably the one selfish attempts that he had. After that, he was controlling the ball and trying to, force it out wide to Son or to Bergwijn, Lucas Lamela, whoever was out on the right-hand side. He was a little more of a team player after that. So for me, that shows somebody who's willing to, learn and try to do something different. It didn't work for him. He's going to, see if he can get other teammates involved and try there. But it really, for me, seeing that aggression and that passion and, really fighting for every ball and throwing the challenges in there, that was sorely lacking from 8, 9 other players on the field for Spurs.
Yeah. There was no passion at all. But don't you think he should have scored from that header in the last minute? That should be a goal, surely. I mean, you can't miss an easy chance like that, surely.
Yeah, it should have been a goal. Aurier's chance earlier on should have been a goal. You're not going to get all of these chances. Somebody's got to put them away for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to criticize it because it was, you're right, it absolutely should have been. It was an easy goal. But I want to give him the benefit of the doubt for now. I think he's scored a couple of goals in, Europa League and in cup competitions. So I don't think it's necessarily him out of form or him being incapable. I think it was just, you get 1 or 2 chances and you got to put them away. He didn't put them away, but maybe against, West Brom, he will. So I'll give him
let me ask you this question, Stephen. If it was Harry Kane on the end of that cross, is that a goal or is that not a goal?
I've seen Kane miss those too. That's why I'm giving Vinicius the kind of benefit of the doubt there. It's easy to say, oh, Kane would have put that away, but there have been a couple of chances this season where Kane has missed those. He's gone wide, he's gone over or right at the keeper. But the difference is Kane gets that second chance to go in and show, okay, let me put 2 against, the next team, and no doubt that he's a top quality striker. I just want to see Vinicius get that same chance. Yes, he missed it. Can he do it against West Brom now? If he can't, and he goes into the next game and he's still not putting these chances away that are coming to him, then we can have that conversation. It's like, all right, you know what? He's on loan. Maybe we don't want to buy him. Maybe he's not good enough.
Sure.
But first start in the league and he was limited in his chances. I'm willing to give him another game or two of trying to prove that he's got what it takes before I start calling for anybody else to be, playing striker.
Quick question. I mean, do you think Mourinho is he capable of actually changing his tactics, or this is the only way he knows how to play? What do you think about that?
I think that there's a couple of factors working against him. The fact that we don't really have many creative midfielders to give him something kind of limits the style that he's allowed to play. From my perspective, I'm looking at, this is the same sort of stretch that saw Pochettino get sacked, right? 3 wins in 12 games. The difference between the two, for me, Pochettino wasn't willing to change anything. He kept doing the same tactics, same formation, same players, and it wasn't working. The difference here is Jose's trying different things. He's got different formations. It doesn't work. He tries something else. If a player's not performing, he's pulling them. He's trying something else. It's still not working for him. And, you can say he should be a top quality manager. He should be motivating these players to go out there and give 100+% every minute they're on the field, and they're not doing that. So maybe there is something there. I can see why people are starting to get on the, Jose out train and maybe we need something fresh. And, I was talking to the Vermont supporters about it maybe last weekend. And for me, I think Jose needs to see out the season. It's going to be too expensive to get with him mid-season. And who do you replace him with is really what it boils down to. But I think also somebody who's going to, he's going to be bringing big names in if we can get them during the summer. I think he's one of those managers you bring in. If he gets you that cup, that's a job done. He's got you what you need. We're in a cup final. If he wins that, I think he's done exactly what Levy's brought him to do. And then when you look for a Jose replacement, I don't see him getting another contract. He's not going to get an extension. I see us looking maybe to a younger talent, somebody with fresh ideas, because it's clear to us that Spurs can't keep playing this way. We're going to need a change at some point. Let's just hope Jose can get us at least some silverware for his trouble.
Do you think he may be able to get us some silverware, but can he get us into the top 4?
At the rate we're playing, probably not.
Because that's what Levy brought him in for, is to get us into the top 4 in Champions League. So if he doesn't do that, he's failed, hasn't he?
He has, for sure. There's no doubt about it. I still look at where other teams are around us. We're 14 points off first. We're not getting first place. We're not winning the league. That's not going to happen. Yeah. But there's still, 1 or 2 games between us in 8th place and us in the top 4. We're in a bad run of form. If he can turn it around, and we go, a month or 2 undefeated and we're winning games and back on track, we could easily be having a very different conversation.
But let me put something to you, Stephen. Even when we had Kane, we had Lo Celso, we had these Region, he was playing the same way. Just sit back and defend and hit people on the break. The difference is then he had the players that could execute the break. Now he doesn't have the players who can execute the break, so he's losing games.
Yeah, it's different tactics are needed for sure. You can't play that counterattack when you've got, Davies, who's not that dynamic attacking threat on the left. Poirier, he was getting into some positions, but that's also like the Chelsea's strongest side at times. And so he's being required to sit back and defend more. And so, when you take that out of the game and you don't have an opposite side to move down, you got to go through the middle. And unfortunately, Chelsea were well drilled with their midfields just completely locking down and keeping Spurs from getting anywhere near that attacking third.
I mean, the big thing for me yesterday is we didn't have a midfield. I mean, the Chelsea players in midfield, there's like an open space. It's like a green field. They're just walking through. Where was Højbjerg? Where was Sissoko? Where was Bergwijn? Where were these guys coming? Chelsea, the transition from defense to attack was so quick because there's nobody in there. Because Højbjerg was pushing back, Sissoko was protecting the sides, and middle was empty. We've got to change the formation. We've got to pack the midfield to make sure we don't get exposed like that again.
Yeah, this was probably one of those games where instead of Sissoko, maybe you needed a Harry Winks in there to make some of those forward passes. I tend to criticize when you've got both Sissoko and Winks at the same time because I think they're too similar in that role, but for different purposes. I see Winks as more of that offensive option, whereas Sissoko definitely, if you're going to play that sort of counterattack, you want him there to cover your right back, Aurier in this case. But if Aurier is going to be pinned back defending anyway, then you need somebody there to play that forward pass. And so
there's nobody there, is it?
He's not there. No, the ball when he got the ball, it's like that's end of the attack. He's not making that.
Exactly. Yeah, it's crazy. So let's wind up now, Stephen. Give us your takeaway from this match, and then give us a prediction for West Brom on Sunday.
Yeah, so I mean, my big takeaway is it was an improvement versus Brighton, as little
Which
as
is not difficult, really. It's a low threshold, isn't it, to be improved against Brighton?
the bar was really low. They just got over it, but it's still nowhere near good enough. West Brom, I think, are going to look at Spurs as being vulnerable. They're going to try to take advantage of our form, but they're also the type of team where if you're going to try something like the formation that we saw at Chelsea, if you try that against West Brom, I think you have different results. For me, I really want to say Spurs are going to win, but I am feeling in my heart that it's going to be at the absolute best a draw. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully that Vinicius can put some of those chances away, or Son can get more involved, or somebody. But I struggle to see, based on the form that we've seen, anything positive coming from that. So draw for me is going to be best case.
Yeah, and hopefully Harry Kane will be back after that. So
hopefully,
it just shows you how much we depend on him. When he's not there, we just look like an average team. It's really good. Well, listen, Stephen, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for joining the Spurs 9501 podcast. We really appreciate all your views and your analysis. Come on, you Spurs. Let's hope we can get back on the winning track again.
Yeah, come on, you Spurs. Let's take West Brom down.